Hi, how you going? Just a very brief thing to tell you some good news that Alex Jones is admitting that indeed Israel is on selling US high technology to the economic and military competitors of the United States. Of course, many will say he's just tossing a bone in to try and make himself slightly relevant. It's an issue that can't be ignored, and it's quite obvious he watches my stuff. I've noticed that many times. A few days after I've released something, he'll make comment, and I've no doubt he watched my last video. Isn't Netanyahu the most powerful man in the world, where I address these issues? I've addressed these issues constantly in terms of Israel handing technology to Russia, which is why Putin is working with Netanyahu very closely. Of course, in comes China, and even Iran is getting benefits via the Telpiot program, via Putin on into Iran, which may be why I came under so much pressure not to talk about it. But eventually, of course, for those of you who don't know, I got permission from my lawyer handler when I was in Tehran. Go and watch this Tehran conference, Support BDS, Israeli High Technology Exports, Israeli Spying, where I got permission to hold a conference or organize a conference with Dr. Alan Sabrosky, amongst others, to hold that conference in Tehran. It took me 3 weeks of screaming at the lawyer saying, I will leave Tehran, I will leave Iran and embarrass the Iranian government if you keep trying to divert me from exposing Israel, the high technology sector. I literally had to threaten, and we're going to go into that in detail with all the video footage and sound you haven't seen from Iran. So I'm going to put pay to all my little detractors. You're going to have a lot of egg on your face. So go and watch that. Tehran conference, support BDF. There's a lot of good information in there. This was edited later when I got back to Malaysia, so it wouldn't have been in this format originally. But in the end, when I left Iran, it stopped. No conference, didn't go ahead, nothing. Dr. Alan Sabrosky, you should message him, and Christopher Bullin and others. Like I said, if Iran was 100% for real, you don't think they would be exposing this program? Well, of course they can't, because they're actually benefiting indirectly from this program. Remember, they're working very closely with Vladimir Putin, and Vladimir Putin doesn't want the technology flows to stop from his friend Benjamin Netanyahu to Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin, who of course they're all in bed with Donald Trump. It's the same people. Chabad Lubavitch, you know the story. We'll go into that in detail. Let's now see Joel Skousen. I mean, at least he's sort of honest. Or I'm not saying he's honest, but he's honest. He believes in what he's saying. It's garbage, but he believes in what he's saying. Unlike, I think, Mr. Alex Jones, as we all know, I think he's heavily compromised. Anyway, let's watch Joel Skousen, and it's only a minute and a half. Watch.
We gave we brought Mao Zedong to power in China, and we've been through, especially through the Clinton administration and the Department of Commerce, giving military technology to China, and now we've been doing it since the Clinton administration through Israel. A lot of Americans don't realize that the technology we give to Israel, they're allowed to sell to China to make hard currency cash. And so this is a real significant betrayal. And of course,
and just like some of the leftists in Israel have been known to we're not anti-Israel, but Israel has been endangering everybody's security, selling stuff to China that we give them. It's wrong. It needs to stop. There's an addendum that I want to add on to the last two segments here that I didn't get to that was important that I wanted to bring up for Joel Skousen. Along my point of it being the globalists that keep propping up North Korea through China, that keep giving them weapons. And it's true that Israel has a long history, off and on, of transferring sensitive technology to China, and it's completely legal. The United States transfers money and military equipment to Israel, and then they transfer it to China, and so does our government. And so does the British government. I mean, it's all these big arms-selling countries, but China then gives it to North Korea. And if you look at China's weapons, they're all clones of U.S. weapons. And they're constantly threatening to attack us.
Well, there you go. Miracle of miracles. Jones throws a bone, throws the dog a bone. You might also want to watch this video. There's war coming soon around the United States and Israel, where I discuss how US weapons manufacturers like Lockheed landed the F-35 directly into the hands of all the Russian technicians that work for the Israeli high technology sector. Elbit Systems is rearranging the helmet sights of the F-35. They're rearranging the multifunction displays of the fighter. Of course, Lockheed couldn't do it in the United States. It had to be done by Israel. And of course, all that technology pulled apart and sent to Russia. Again, it's the old Professor Anthony Sutton technique of the Soviet Union, building up National Socialist Germany via Wall Street, building up the enemies so that you've got a credible enemy with which you can then go to war with, or at least maintain a Cold War and keep those military high technology contracts flowing at the taxpayer's expense. Watch that video and you'll see Mudge. Mudge, for those of you who don't know, is a legendary hacker who then sold out, went to DARPA, as most of them do. It's from extract from the infamous DEF CON conferences, and you'll see Mudge, who's a friend of Julian Assange, talking about how he's clearly inferring that, and he virtually says it, that US military contractors are deliberately lowering their security standards so China can hack them, so Iran and Israel and so on, they can get the high technology out there. Then they can go to Congress and say, oh my God, Iran's got a stealth drone, which they gave to Iran a few years ago, and I guess we'll need another contract, thanks. Look, the generals all cooperate. They're all Kim Jong-il's generals talking to the Chinese generals, talking to the Israeli generals, who are talking to the American generals in the loop. It's private intelligence network, all right? It's not the CIA, it's not the DIA, it's not the Pentagon, it's the Rothschild, Victor Rothschild and Henry Macau does a lot on this. Private intelligence networks, the parasite within these governmental systems, all right? They're private intelligence networks, just like Oliver North and George Bush Sr. on Iran-Contra. That was a private intelligence network. There were no files on this in the CIA because it wasn't the CIA. It was a private intelligence network running and utilizing those resources. That's what you have to understand. So is war coming soon? Watch that and you'll see. Let's quickly get up Mudge actually, and I'll just show, just search. You really need to watch the DEF CON conferences. They tell you so much, you would be amazed. So just DEF CON Mudge and you'll get the full. I take about a 10-minute extract, but you'll get his full interview here. DEF CON 21 Mudge, unexpected stories from a hacker.
Just so we're clear,
from a hacker inside the US government. And I urge you to watch that whole 50-minute presentation from Mudge, who's a little legendary hacker, as many of you know. You know, I get so much information out of just it's just open source. It's sitting in front of you when you know how to look and you know how to connect the dots. That isn't that should be on the mainstream news. That is a man at the highest levels of DARPA telling the American public, US weapons manufacturers are deliberately arming our enemies to keep the high technology sector going. They're all in on it, all of them. But it's being privately done through these networks, and Israel is the keyest of key player. And that's always been my strategy. Make the United States Marine Corps and the Pentagon, the Marine headquarters, get so angry because these are the weapons that are going to be killing you, going to be killing your brother, your sister, your father, your mother, your uncle, your auntie, your cousin. They're getting killed by these weapons manufacturers who are using it for social control and to stimulate the high technology sector. So please take the tact I take, drop the Holocaust stuff, drop out off field and focus on Israel as a parasite via the America-Israel Political Action Committee, via their vast Sayanu network, the political Zionist movement and Jewish power in general. That, you know, this is the thing that's killing the United States. The United States is a laughingstock now because of this Jewish power, this political Zionist movement. It is completely Jewish, Bolshevik, subverted you, just like it went into the old Russia in 1917. And it's put on new garb. And Donald Trump is not going to save you. He's working for those people. Unless people around him, maybe it's happening, and that's after just watching Alex Jones's, you know, the second hour, Tuesday, January the 9th, 2018. You'll find it there on the Ron Gibson channel. Again, Jones throwing a bone, keeping his handing, whatever. I know he's watching my channel. Use him as a conduit into the military industrial complex. That's good men and women within the CIA, within the NSA, within all the acronyms throughout the United States, and make them realize that. And even within Israel itself, you know, there are people now who've said, dear God, we need peace. We've got to have peace. Otherwise, there's going to be no future. So utilize that. Focus like a laser beam on that issue of Orthodox Judaism as the foundation of the Israeli state. And two, the Israeli high technology sector under the Talpiot program, which I've talked about 1,000 times. You can watch in my videos. I literally own that subject now. I've been trying to give it away to the big players constantly. Only Dr. Kevin Barrett, Professor Tony Hall, The Antidote with Greg, and God, the Jewish guy who does the presentations, and that very few have taken up. Henry's promised to take it up, Henry McCall and others. And I remember a lot of people have poo-pooed this, and there's a reason a lot of people don't want to mention it, because they're not going to get as many interviews. Certainly not on Russia today, because Russia is absolutely dependent on that high technology transfer to build their economy up, and there are many within the United States want to build a credible enemy. The ultimate aim is not World War III. It's to threaten World War III. It's theatre. There may well be something happen. It's possible. But the main thing is, and I urge you to read this, and I'm going to wind up now, but I urge you to go and Google this. I do have DuckDuckGo, but DuckDuckGo is useless. Those other ones that don't track you are useless. Look up this. Report from Iron Mountain. They are reinstituting the Cold War. You can go and download it, read it. I first heard about this from Colonel Fletcher Prouty. For those of you who don't know, Prouty, that's the guy that Donald Sutherland played in JFK, X. He was a real guy called Colonel Fletcher Prouty, and we'll go into that later. I talk about that with Nick. It's a book published in '67, and they claimed it was fake. Well, it wasn't fake, because as Fletcher Prouty said, they ordered 13,000 copies for the Pentagon. And what the report from Iron Mountain said was, we have no viable alternative to warfare for social control and stimulate our high technology sector and maintain our economies. We're going to have to keep war going until some viable future. And that viable future is, of course, AI, robotics, and total tyranny. All right, they won't need it anymore, because it'll be total tyranny, total control, population control, vaccinated and sterile in our little compact cities with our swipe cards or our mobile phones tracking us. That's the future. And they're reinvigorating the Cold War, and you're going to see North America, South America, Australia, and UK against everyone else, with Europe as a sort of a Switzerland. And they're going to reinvigorate the new enemy, China. They're going to reinvigorate Russia, and so on. And then they'll have the standoff. And they're all in on it. The generals are all in it. The top players are all in on it, because it's a way of social control. Again, they had the Cold War. And Fletcher Prouty said that we'll end that. In the '60s, he was told they'll be ending that in the around the 1990s, which they did. And then they would bring in terrorism, because now they've got the social control, high technology mechanisms in now place, our electronic checkpoints to control us. They couldn't put that in under the Cold War, because people would go, hey, this is the Soviet Union style. You can't do this. So they had to end that. Then they invented the terrorist crisis. Now they've got the social control mechanisms in place, the iris scanners, the thumb scanners, and all the rest. Now they're going to reintroduce back the old stable bipolar Cold War system to further on the next phase of the project. That's what's happening. That's my opinion, and I believe it's 100% right. And if you go and investigate this stuff, you will see at the very, very top, they are all cooperating. The head of the snake, the City of London, Frankfurt, Basel in Switzerland, the Bank of International Settlements, along with Zurich. Iran's deep in bed with those people. I'm not talking about ordinary Iranians and even their top generals and so on. We're talking about the very, very elite. The very, very elite. It's a game. It's a game. And pretty soon the Shia militias will be chased back across the Euphrates, but Iran will get its Persian Empire. It will still control half of Iraq. And they told straight to my face they were going to reinvigorate the Persian Empire, take the Afghanistan, Turkmenistan, all the stands, they said. So that's the deal that's been done with German and Swiss bankers, who, of course, are run by the City of London and Rothschild. Remember, these are private intelligence networks. They're private. It's not the CIA. It's not MI6. It's not MI5. These are private intelligence networks spread throughout the system. That's it from me. Alex Jones, Miracle of Miracles, talking about Israel. That's the tack to take. Tell your military friends, because they're the only people that can deal with Israel. The American military and security services are the only people that can deal with Israel. And there can be peace in the Middle East. If there has to be Armageddon, maybe it will be 50 years from now. It's not now. There's a lot of prophecy to unfold. We still need a long period of peace where even Jews, Christians, and Muslims are going to be persecuted directly. A lot of people are going to be, we're not there yet. And the scientific rationalists are going to come out and say anyone that believes in a supernatural God is mentally ill. And they've already got that diagnostic statistical manual thing for people who believe in religion, that you're a nutcase. This is Jewish Bolshevik 2.0, Soviet Union 2.0 on a worldwide scale. Thanks for listening.